Welcome back, YouTube, to another money per hour grind series video. Yes, you heard me right. It's been a minute since I've done a specific video on a specific grind spot, mostly due to me not really having enough gear score to try out like the higher end grind spots. However, I have made some progress in the past couple weeks. I think I went from like 320 AP now to 328 AP. So I had a pretty successful enhancing stream a couple weeks ago. But anyway, I had a viewer come into the stream and they said that I should try out Dehkia Cyclops. Well, let me say, it's probably one of my favorite spots now. And I didn't even know it even existed. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you everything that you need to know, right, for this spot. So location, rotations, any mechanics, and then finally kind of looking at the loot. And oh yeah, and I got to throw in my normal disclaimer, right? But this video is geared towards a person who may be checking out the spot for the first time. So your money per hour may be a little less until you get somewhat efficient. Also, I'm not perfect. So if I happen to leave anything out that you think is important for the spot, then let me know down in the comments, which I do read every single comment. But with that being said, let's jump right on in. So this spot is going to be near Trent, with the main city being closer to Calfian. So I'll show you here on the map real quick. But before I do that, so there are different Dehkia spots at this location, right? But there should be only really one spot that you want to go to, right? Which is where I'm currently at. And the reason why, which I did not know this for the first hour when I was here, but this spot where I'm at actually has a vendor. You can kind of see him right here that you can literally, sell your trash loot to, right? So super important because this spot has two different trash loots, right? Which you can only stack one trash loot on your horse, and then you have to use the storage maids to move the other trash loot, right? So at first I was like, this place sucks and it's pay to win because you need a lot of storage maids. But the same viewer who recommended this grind spot told me that I needed to be at this specific spot, right? Because of the vendor, which makes a huge, huge difference, right? So in reality, this is probably the only spot that you want to be at if you do grind here. But if we do pull up the Monster Zone info, actually, before I do that, let me show you where it's at on the map. So we can see that Trent is right here. This is the Dehkia Cyclops land, right? So kind of all in this area here. And if I zoom all the way out, we can see that Calfian is over here. And then we also have Grana over here. And then we have Heidel all the way over in this direction there. But again, the only really spot that you want to be at, if I can zoom in, my button here on my mouse is like broke, so struggling with it. But anyway, if we zoom all the way in, this is the spot that you want to be at right here. Okay. And then if we pull up the Monster Zone info here and we type in Cyclops, Dehkia, and then I didn't even know this existed, but if you go here, it actually will show you the Dehkia spots, which is like mind blowing. I guess this has always been a thing in the game. I just never realized this. But you can see that there's 5 spots, and I'm at the bottom right, the further bottom right spot. All right, so while I have the Monster Zone info pulled up, let's take a look here at the gear requirements. So we can see if I do view total stats, right, which is including everything, right, your buffs, your skill add-ons, everything. You're going to need at least a recommended AP of 950, and then DP is 440, and then 1000 is the restricted mark. So, right, having pretty much anything higher than 1000, only 70% of the exceeded AP will be applied, right? But you can see, I mean, in terms of like the gear requirements, it's really not that crazy when you compare it to like the high end grind spots like Darkseeker's Retreat or Tungrad Ruins or a few other places that pretty much require like a recommended AP of 1,000 or even like 1,100. So I feel like gear requirements is fairly easy for the most part once you get to this point. And yeah, I feel like the mobs are fairly easy. The Cyclops is pretty tanky, but other than that, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. So let's kind of take a look here at the mechanics. So as long as you're paying attention to when the Cyclops spawns, you should be fine because essentially he'll do an attack that will kind of cover the area red. And if you don't either iframe it or just kind of completely leave the red area, then it could definitely kill you really quickly, especially if you're on the lower end of the DP range. But yeah, once you kind of start the Dehkia spot, right, little gargoyles will kind of spawn. They're super easy to kill them. And then after a short period, you'll then see kind of a message stating that a Cyclops has appeared. And then you just want to focus him kind of right off the bat and make sure you do back attack damage because he's very, very tanky. Um, However, if you have enough AP, then there's a potential that you can kill him before he even does like any of the red AoE attacks. But for the most part, that's pretty much it. He will shoot a beam out of his eye kind of at you. And if you attack him in the front while he's doing it, then you'll just kind of interrupt him, which honestly, it doesn't really matter if you attack him in the front or not. I haven't really seen much of a difference, but biggest thing is you just want to make sure you just continuously kind of back attack him. Also, he will try to consume like one of the little gargoyles to like regain his health, which again, if you just attack him, it will kind of interrupt that process. So kind of the big takeaway is just kill small gargoyles until the Cyclops appears and then just focus him down with back attack damage. And then if you see a red AoE, just either iframe it or just completely leave the red kind of area and you should be good to go. It's fairly straightforward, fairly easy. I would say like Succession Zerker is easy peasy at this spot. So yeah, not too bad. So buffs in general, you'll probably want to run something like a simple cron mill. Then you could potentially run like a corrupt frenzy drought. However, I usually just run the demi-human harmony drought since the Cyclops is demi-human, but it does cost significantly more, like almost 50 million more an hour with 4 demi-human harmonies, like when you compare it to like 4 corrupt frenzy droughts. Then you have the tent villa buffs, church buffs, Vel's heart, the best in slot artifacts, right, such as the kabuas. And I'm currently running the all out attack lightstone combination. All right, so let's go over the drops here. So I have the Monster Zone info pulled up, and you can see not really that many drops. In terms of the accessory, right, this is pretty big. This is going to be the Dawn Earring. You can see, at least as of right now, it's selling for 264 million. This thing drops like candy. But again, it also kind of depends on your drop rate too. There is a drop rate event going on right now. So I was averaging like 250%, but I was getting probably at least like 2 to 3 an hour, which will significantly boost your money per hour. So yeah, it's really, really good drop. Kind of moving down, we have the Blackstones, right? Obviously can be used for enhancing or can be used to exchange for fail stacks. Then we have these 2 crystals here, which you can see they don't really sell that much, but these can be used to make more expensive crystals. And then we have the sealed black magic crystal, which is a very sought out resource because it makes magical shards, which is needed for a whole bunch of different things. You can see currently it's selling for 3.2 million. At one point, they were selling for like 300,000, which is wild now that they're all the way back up to 3.2. Forgotten Limbo Seal. So this is a really rare drop. I think I've only gotten like one of these ever, and I've totally forgot to even use it. It expired on me. But essentially, it will take you to like an instance trial area, and once you complete it, you have the opportunity to get really good, juicy rewards. Kaffir stones, right? A always much needed resource to kind of get your gear up in Kaffir levels, right? So once you get to Kaffir level 10 on a pin boss armor, and then you get a specific flame that's going to allow you to get your in-game gear piece. Or you can use this to Kaffir level your Kudum or Nuver all the way up to like Kaffir level 20. Ancient Spirit Dust, right? This is going to be used to make Kaffir stones. And then we have the Ancient Relic Crystal Shard, which once you get 5 of these, you can run a scroll, which essentially allows you to get memory fragments, right? This is also a resource that's dropped from fishing. So you can see right now in the market, 1.2 million. Then we have the 2 different trash loots, right? So we have the Corrupted Claw, that's going to be 16.9k silver. And then we have the Tainted Spear, which is going to be 32.9k. And then we have the Trace of Nature, which is going to be used to craft a whole bunch of different things. All right, so let's see what I got with all my hours here at this grind spot using a level 2 loot scroll with no agris. Right, this is not an agris efficient spot. You'll burn through it extremely quickly. You could pay 50 million to get the temp buff for a 50% increase on your drop rate, but I didn't do that in this video because, like I said, there was already a drop rate event going on. But before we take a look at my hours, let's take a look at Garmoth, which, remember, Garmoth is not the most accurate, but it's the only data that we have access to. So according to Garmoth, the potential average money per hour at 138% drop rate with the yellow loot scroll is around 1.4 billion, with the average trash being around 11.8k with the spear trash, and then 18.4k with the claw trash, right? So that's a number you could potentially expect if you're geared properly and if your class is good with PvE. And again, it's really important to note that your money per hour is going to vary based on that drop rate, right? So if you have a 140% drop rate versus 250% drop rate, it's going to be completely different because you're not going to be getting as many Dawn earring drops, okay? So let's go and take a look at my hours here, which I was sitting around 250-ish drop rate. And I also logged 6 hours with my Succession Berserker and then 1 hour with my Awakening Sork. You'll see in that log that 2 of the hours were done with a Striker, which is completely false. I did not do any hours with Striker, but Garmoth won't let me go back and change it for some reason. So super annoying. But yeah, you can see that my money per hour, except for the first hour, was really good. It was really good, which, speaking on my first hour, I was not at the efficient grind spot where the vendor's at, right? And I did not get any Dawn earring drops at all, which is kind of crazy because I was like averaging like 2 to 3 an hour anyway. But yeah, you can see that my average trash was around 10.5k with the spear trash, and then my best hour was around 11.6k. And then you can see with the other trash, the claw trash, my best hour was around 16.8k. And you can also see 1 hour I ended up getting 5 Dawn earrings, which is nuts. But in general, this is probably like my new favorite grind spot. It's super chill with Succession Berserker. You can literally just like spin for like 20 seconds and then you can just do that like every minute. So super chill. And, if you're around this kind of gear range, then I highly recommend you checking out this spot. But yeah, I think you would definitely be surprised, kind of like how I was. So money is super, super good. But let me know down in the comments, have you tried out this spot? If you did, kind of what numbers were you ranging at? But yeah, glad to kind of do another grinding spot video. Like I said, it's been like 3 or 4 months since I've done a video on a specific grind spot. So yeah, hopefully I can get some more gear and I can try out the other higher end grind spots. But thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking out the video. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.